So, howdy y'all. I can't really see you. It helps because it's like I'm actually just by myself right now. That's how it feels. I'm Seth Peacock. I'm gonna introduce myself a little bit. Most of my jokes are just my life, so get ready for that. I'm a student at BYU. Yeah, and I graduate in April. It's exciting, and so I was like reflecting on my experience as a student, the very bounteous life that I've lived as a student. So I've been thinking about things that I've done, and I was a TA for a class called a statistics class. You all know statistics. You know what that is? Maybe. I think it's a sort of. That's good. Yes. That's how excited I am when I'm doing it. Actually, no, I don't get more excited than this. So I was a TA for statistics, and statistics is sort of like one of those love-hate things. I think people hate doing it, but they love what it tells them. So it like tells them that their favorite baseball player is good or whatever, right? Like that's why you love statistics, because it's like, oh, this says that I'm better than you. So statistics are good, right? That's how they work. If you like them, they're right. If you don't like them, then they're wrong. And that's a pretty valid way of looking at it. And so I was teaching a class. It's called ANOVA, A-N-O-V-A. And ANOVA is basically a way of looking at like different groups and seeing if they're different from each other. And the acronym stands for ain't nobody's opinion valid, all right? Because everybody's just wrong all the time. And that's basically what you want to do with statistics. Like, you have these p-values and these tests that you do, but most of the time, you're just trying to show Becky that she's wrong about, like, the trends next year, and you're like, no, sweaters are not in. Like, I ran the numbers, I crunched the numbers, like, you're out of date, okay? Like, that was so last year. It's because you didn't, like, account for like the change in time or whatever. You just need to update your analysis. Like, it's basic stuff, Becky, okay? So that's what we teach students, is like to judge each other and call each other wrong, positive feedback. And so one of these things that I did as a TA was grade assignments. Like the first assignment, or one of the first assignments was, I don't know, just some basic stuff. Like they were, calculate a mean, everyone's favorite stuff. But one of the questions was about a man named Ronald Fisher. And Ronald Fisher was a big guy in statistics. He did a lot of cool things, and it was related to ANOVA, so that's like part of why the teacher had a question about this. But he didn't like talk about Ronald Fisher in class. It was just sort of like, the question asks you go do some research, answer a couple of write a couple of sentences about who Ronald Fisher is. And on the whole, I think the students really got him. So they'd say like, they gave me kind of like a bullet point list of who Ronald Fisher is. Ronald Fisher. So one, he's the guy who did ANOVA. He like made that basically, and he also did like a bunch of other tests, and he was racist. And that's like a really important point. Like his Wikipedia page, like at least half of it's dedicated to the fact that he was racist, or if he was racist. And so when people just answered like, who's Ronald Fisher? And he's like, he was racist, is just like, I guess that's right. Like I can't mark you wrong on that one. I'm like, it's up for debate, people. So like, I'm not gonna penalize you if you just, he lived in that time, He was basically racist. He had to be racist. That's just how it works. Well, hopefully he learned from his mistakes, and we can learn from his. But speaking of being racist, I'm not, hopefully, and but I'm more of I'm a math statistician, but a little bit more of a mathematician. But I get a little bit of both. And something that interesting that I've seen, like going through my classes and stuff, is like in statistics classes, it's usually like 50% women, 50% men. Like most of the time that's how it is, and like I didn't even think about it. It was just sort of like, go to my classes, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I've been taking some math classes, and like you go in there and it's like 10 men and like 1 woman. And I'm like, okay, there's something weird going on here. Like math and statistics aren't that different. At least they didn't seem to me. So I was talking to some people about like, why do you think that is? Or like, do you think we can do anything about it? Like, what do the statistics people got that like draws them that the math people don't? And maybe it's a personality, I don't know. I don't have one of those, so I don't know how it works. But there might also be like other factors. So I was trying to think like, why is it that math just doesn't appeal to women? I mean, I don't know specifically, but maybe in general it's like the sort of problems that people work on are just like so weird that it's like, who would even think about that, Like I was in a philosophy class, this isn't math, but like, it's a similar idea. Like I was in a philosophy class, and near the end of the semester, there was this girl, and she was like, this whole semester I've been doing the readings and stuff, and like all the time I just thought like, why the heck are even people thinking about this? Like go get a life, and like stop philosophizing, like it's stupid. And I was like, you're right, and I don't know why we're here, but math is similar. So there's like a couple things there's a lot of weird things in math, but there's like a theorem called the Harry-Ball theorem. And it's basically like you can't like comb, like one way of saying it is like you can't really comb hair so that it looks good. That's almost what it says. Like it's a really weird theorem. It's like some guy in the 1800s was just like, maybe he had a bad hair, and he was just like, I want to mathematically prove that my hair can't be good. And it always has to have a cowlick somewhere. And then he felt better about himself because he mathematically proved it. And there's other stuff like that where it's just like, how do people even think of these things? There's like, they're just kind of weird. And so I was like, okay, well maybe it's the sort of problems that mathematicians work on are just like, they're the sort of thing that some girl looks at and they're like, get a life. And so I was thinking like, okay, well, what's some things that we can try to like appeal, get some appeal. And so I came up with like a postulate, a conjecture. It's something that you state, but hasn't been quite proved, and maybe it can't be proved. And so to the aspiring STEM women in this audience, the question I put to you is like, or the thing that you want to prove is like, nobody can be better than Taylor Swift, all right? Yes. I think we'd get a lot more women in our math classes if we were trying to teach that nobody can be better than Taylor and mathematically prove it. Because I think it's true, but you just gotta add the numbers right, and it works out. So yeah, as you can tell, I like math. Not all people do, and that's okay. But I was, as you do when I think most of us do, like you look at math classes, right? And you're like, oh, I want to take math classes. No, people don't do that, but I do that, and I was just thinking about how funny it is, like the names of these math classes. There's like 3 classes that are called analysis, and they have different like things in front of them, and it's supposed to tell you something a bit different about it. And so one's called real analysis, one's called functional analysis, the other's called complex analysis. And it's like, okay, what's the difference between these? Like, why is one real and one's functional, and why is like the other one complex? Like, I don't get it. Like, is the complex one fake? Are the functional things fake? Like, do they not work? Like, do you need to fix it? I don't get why like your real stuff isn't working, and your complex stuff doesn't work either. Like, why are you doing math if it doesn't work? Okay, like that should be your basic like goal there. And so I was trying to think like, if somebody doesn't know anything about these classes, how might they like go into them? So I was thinking like, a real analysis class, I would go in and expect the teacher to be like very what's the word, genuine, maybe sharing a little bit too much about themselves, talking about like some traumatic experience they had at like Walmart the other day, and you're like, yeah, we really need to analyze that and like think about like why you're a valid person, and like they were wrong and stupid and probably ugly too. And yeah, so that's what I imagine for real analysis. And functional analysis, like I'd go in and expect like a construction worker or something. He's like, I don't know how it works, but like it works. So you don't need to worry about it. Like, I don't know why we can build buildings so tall, but like somebody did the math once and it worked. So like, just do the same thing and you'll be all right. Like he doesn't, he just gives you what you need. Who cares about the theory? And then like complex analysis, I mean, maybe this is just me, but I like walk in and expect somebody who's like really into zodiac signs, and like, and she's like, oh, this is true because when he was thinking about it, it was like Pisces, and it was just the third year after a blue moon, and it just the aura was right, like the vibes were just in him, and so when he wrote that theorem, it was true. That's how it works. So thank you all. That's all I have.